Cabure, it's Dash back with another guide on things that we're having issues with in general. So today it's going to be what you need to have if you want to raid with us as far as on your hotbar or set within your user interface. So the first thing that I want to go over, and everybody should have this, is interrupts versus stuns. So there's a lot of mechanics going into hard mode where certain things need to be interrupted. As far as interrupts on story mode, you should get in the habit of doing it. But outside of Gods of the Machine, where the Isaac's fight needs to have Omni Cannon charge interrupted or we're boned, this is what we mean by an interrupt. I'm playing a lethality operative. Operatives in general are just, part of the agent class, but disruption is our interrupt. So if you look at this, it's got an 18-second cooldown and interrupts the target's current action and prevents the ability from being used for 4 seconds. Now, it doesn't necessarily prevent the ability from being used for 4 seconds, but it does most definitely interrupt any of the casted attacks. Now, what do we mean by casted attacks? Get this a lot, so I'm going to show you exactly what you need to have on your bar. Go to interface editor in game, you're going to notice here that we have target Castbar, and I have my target frame here. So whatever you're targeting, which should be the boss, and we say let's say Isaac's, for example, charge Omni Cannon needs to be interrupted. It's a 4-second cast time. You see charge Omni Cannon casting on this Castbar wherever you place it of whatever you're targeting. I don't have target of target Castbar on because usually I'm just focusing the boss, but if you look here, target of target Castbar, I could set this here. You click it and then you click enable and save it. It's now done. Okay. The second thing is anything that you're targeting that has a cast that can be interrupted will show up. If this is grayed out, so if your interrupt is grayed out, for example, on a mercenary, it's disabling shot, it's got a longer cooldown, then, that's what we call next. But it needs to be on your bar, and if you don't have target Castbar on at minimum, then you're not going to know what the heck we're talking about. Second thing, UI scale, you can change this, but what I want to show you is, if I can find it, this. If you go to interface editor, I do believe it's the buff tray, that. So if you scroll to the bottom, no. I'm failing here, so I apologize. Anyway, I will find out where that is, but somewhere in this super fantastic UI, you will have show cleansable debuffs on. Let's see, I think it's on this. Yes. So operations frame, click operations frame right here, show only removable debuffs, and then you can scale how big you want that. So that is an absolute must for healers who need to cleanse during fights, and also for anybody that has a self-cleanse. So self-cleansing, the operative, the merc, there's several other classes, but basically any class that has a healer class option is going to have a self-cleanse. Until they change that, which hopefully they don't, because operatives aren't OP at all. Neither are mercs. Haha. But what you're going to see here somewhere in my bar, if I can find it, probably not, because I can't find anything ever. I think it's Toxin Scan. Toxin Scan cleanses a friendly target. So an example of this is hard mode or story mode queen. Whenever they do the red circles, that needs to be cleansed. You can self-cleanse, so you can click this and self-cleanse your shit. Another example would be hard mode ToR on the Ravagers, where you get the shackle buff. Now you can't self-cleanse yourself because you're going to be stunned. You're going to have to use your hard stun break, but you can cleanse someone else who has said, hey, I've used my stun break, I need a cleanse. So that's a possibility on there. Second thing, hard stuns versus, sleeping things, hard stuns, whatever. So, debilitate, ours is MAME. Where's MAME? Somewhere in here. Alright, fuck MAME. Flashbang, you're going to see detonates a flashbang that blinds the target for 8 seconds, and then that can be used as an interrupt in certain situations, but for things like the guards, I guess it is debilitate. Okay, so For the guards and queen, you can't use flashbang to stun them. You can use flashbang on other things, but in order to hard stun them so they don't concentrate on a target and kill somebody, it has to be debilitate. Let's see here. Some other things that you need to know is on operative and stealth classes usually have this because you're out of combat, but you have something as far as a mez and a hard CC. So ours is sleep dart. So it will put the target to sleep for 60 seconds. Damaging it will bring it out of combat. So an example of this is when we're speed running Dread Fortress, Dread Palace, and we're CCing the ads, such as the Guardians. We want to speed run through a flashpoint and you CC anything. I mean, really anything. It's great in PvP for buying time and trolling people. The second thing that you need to know for raids that we've been having issues is the communication. With the casted attacks and stuff like that, you have to call it out. You have to say, hey, I got next. There are certain people here that are physically limited through either a disability or just genetics that can't call out. We have that addressed, but you need to be on top of it. Another thing for raids is that operatives and mercs, if you're a DPS class, you can res people in combat. So for the operative, it is this. It's resuscitation probe. That means that if healers aren't on top of it, we have new healers. We know that they're going to be new healers because we're always raiding with new people. This is a combat res. Mercs have onboard AED. Another thing that is kind of going to be coming up with the guild that I want to show you is this. We have guild perks, okay? We've been leveling up. We've been hitting our max cap for XP every week. You can see that for our XP earned already, we've earned 8 million. Most of that was actually done like within the first 2 days. This right here, this perk, this is what I'm going to be starting to use on raids while we're doing hard mode, because starting this week we are doing pretty much hard mode only for pickup raids. I'm pretty much over story modes. We've been clearing all story modes with, you know, broken groups or 16-man, but group resuscitation requires us to be level 64. It'll be a couple weeks for us to be there, but it also requires reinforcement modules. We currently have 2 reinforcement modules, but how we get those, if people are willing to donate them, is these things. Every time you meet conquests on a week, so 10 weeks in a row, you right click this, it makes a reinforcement module, and then you can dump it in the guild bank. It is required for that. As you know, Mando Cabure doesn't really require you to do anything, but if you don't do anything for the guild and you like to raid, this is what we'd like to see. As you can see, you know, if you're looking at the ledger, I deposit a crap ton of money, so that's me deposit 200 mil on sale that I did. I also pull out a bunch of money for making mats and stims. So this week I just happened to be 30 mil ahead. But you know, I pull out for mats to craft things. We have this raid and PvP tab. You have all of these. You know, we provide that free. You get that once you get member rank. We have stims. I'm sorry, not stims. We have 228 augments and augmentation kits that we're doing on with. These 240 accuracy AUGs are part of something special for the primary raid team that has already been posted to our Discord. But here's what you need to know. We're stockpiling these. I'm trying to get 3,000 invasion forces because in 6.0 apparently invasion forces are going to be useful. Second thing, reinforcement modules. These are what we need to purchase higher level perks. So you can see that our guild is pretty much good to go. Outside of that, the mechanics or lagging in raids is a huge issue. One thing, if you're trying to set up star parse, this is the combat logging. This needs to be checked. By default, it will go to your documents and it will be under combat logs. You need to select it there, and it has to be enabled before you start rating and parsing. Second thing that we're having issues with, nameplates. Nameplates on self, so you know where you are. It doesn't really matter. Nameplate on enemy NPCs, you definitely want this. This is why we have issues with what is a amplifier for pink arrow lines versus blue arrow lines on the Isaac's fight. Friendly players, so you know who to res instead of having to click on the operations frame, but you can do that. I would also do nameplates on friendly NPCs, so you know what's up. But basically, if you put these nameplates on things, then in Rage you'll never not know what the hell we're talking about or what you're supposed to talk about. I know there's several players that are RP and they like the game to look pretty, but you're fucking people over in Raids if you're not doing this. Another thing that you need to do is go to your graphics settings. Vertical sync should always be off because it just causes issues within ToR. This doesn't really matter. Full screen windowed you absolutely must have in order to get the overlays to work correctly for star parse. You can have any of this shit on. I turn off shadows because I don't really care. I turn off shadow quality. I do this. Your shadow map resolution or your tree quality, I don't really care, so I turn all that crap down because the game looks good enough and I just burn through things anyway. But if you're lagging, you can mess with things. If you're lagging and you want to change the lag in Rage and other things, change visible character limit to low. That will show how many are there. Now, that's great if you lag on Fleet when there's high population or during events for open world. In Raids, the most you're going to lag is from 16 man until they increase that. So you turn that to low, you'll be a little bit better. Shadow quality, I would turn off. Before you turn it off, you want to drop the shadow map resolution. Character level of detail, if anything, everybody's like, oh man, I just really want my stuff to look good. So if you keep your character level detail high or medium or whatever you have, and you can do texture quality you can reduce if you lag. Put this to high and change anisotropy. Character texture atlasing you can change. Anti-aliasing basically just smooths things. So how smooth does everything look? If you have that, you can change it. Another thing that you need to know is if you're running NVIDIA graphics cards, you have to go in GeForce Experience. I would change it by default because no matter what resolution you're on, ToR is not going to look like fucking Monster Hunter World. Okay, it's just not going to happen. So change the 3D settings, force ToR and global if you want to is the easiest because it's constantly updating and changing, to performance, not quality. That will basically give a boost and use less resources for your GPU. Always make sure that your anti-aliasing on there is FXAA, and then you can tweak other settings and then set it up. The final thing that you need to know for rating is this. By default, this is where your camera zoom out is. So by default, I'm going to close this and I'm going to show you. Everybody's zoom out is like right here. So that's like 19%, okay? For big raids like Story Mode Queen, where you have to figure out which direction you're going, some fights, and to fix fights where if you're a tank, so an example of that would be Dread Palace, you're on the crystal for the Nightmare dude or whatever, and you're trying to fight him and not get the cleave, you're pretty much stuck like this. This is what your camera looks like if you're tanking, and it's super freaking annoying, okay? So if you fix it, because corners, as you can see, I'm trying to zoom out, I can't. ToR's really bad. You can zoom out, make it look like Diablo. So this is 100% zoom out. If by default, like I said, the game's like right around 20%. So if you do 100%, there's no reason ever for you to say, hey man, I can't see where we're at. So an example of that is Styrac. Styrac hard mode, DPS check. You want to stand right on top of the freaking boss where we're all grouping like this, okay? So if this is Styrac, we're zero distance underneath him, punching him in the balls as hard as we can, because fuck him, right? So you zoom out. If you go like this, you're like, oh shit, I'm actually zero distance on my bar from what's targeted, but I'm standing over here. That's not zero distance. You can buy 10 seconds DPS time by stacking right here, because it's basically a delay and then 5 seconds after the ghosts get to you that you have to burn. That's the forgiving mode, at least in hard mode. So there's that. Outside of that, I will have another video up for people later, but that's what I want to see on people's bars if you want to seriously raid. Thanks, and have a great day.